Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe on this Thursday. Apologies for the lack of videos on the channel. Obviously been really intense the last few weeks, getting used to my new role at Football London, the fan brands, the big projects over there, and of course writing about Chelsea on a daily basis, being on the streams with Jay McIntosh and Scott, Carefree Youth, Anita, Renuka. It's been really exciting the past few weeks, and it's going to continue to grow and get better. Thank you for all of your kind support, sharing my articles. It's really meant the world to me. But on the channel, I want to get back to speaking about news, reviewing games, obviously. I did my Crystal Palace review last weekend, so please go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. And on top of that, going to get some great guests on to speak about Chelsea and how the season is starting, basically. So I know some of you guys love those collabs, so definitely going to be doing that on the channel. Leave in the comments below who you'd like to see come on the channel, maybe a reoccurring guest that I've had before, or maybe a new guest I've never had on the channel, so please let me know in the comments below. But let's get to some news. Three topics I want to speak about today: Aurelien Tchouameni, Declan Rice, sort of the central midfield situation. I wrote a big piece of Football London about this, and I just wonder, are Chelsea going to do something specifically around Tchouameni? I think Declan Rice may be out of reach this summer, and that's a deal Chelsea are going to remain patient on. So we'll go into that. Lukaku, his first few days back at Chelsea, basically in training, given those quotes, his press conference, and just some of the quotes from that, because I think some of them are really powerful and insightful to the type of player Lukaku is now, his journey back to Chelsea over a number of years, and kind of seeing where he can go this season. Very exciting to see him with that number 9 shirt confirmed now, and of course getting ready for Sunday's game at Arsenal. And finally, just having Hakim Ziyech back in training. I think this is a big thing for Ziyech because he got that injury in the Super Cup, which was a massive blow to him, because he's done so well over pre-season. So it's great to know he's back in training now, and hopefully, if he's not going to be available for Sunday's game against Arsenal, he may be available for the game at Anfield. And just getting him back in the squad, I think, is massive personally for him this season. Before we get into any of that, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so you don't miss any of the uploads on the channel. Also, do me a massive favor by hitting that like button, because it helps out as well. But this came from Simon Johnson in The Athletic, sort of his piece about Chelsea. They did a massive sort of piece with a bunch of their writers. Every club, basically, what does your club need before the end of the transfer window? And Simon Johnson, Chelsea reporter for The Athletic, talking about the midfield area, Monaco's Aurelien Tchouameni and Declan Rice of West Ham, and stating that late bids can't be ruled out. And Simon Phillips, two great guy, are reporting that Chelsea have made contact with Tchouameni's reps again. We have heard in the past 24 hours that apparently Man United had gone in for Aurelien Tchouameni or tried to make something happen. Apparently that isn't true. Fabrizio Romano ruling that out on Twitter today, which is good news for Chelsea, because I think Tchouameni would be a really good signing. Just on Declan Rice, who, is kind of like the Lukaku situation here. He's the more obvious number 1 target in this area that's going to cost a lot of money this summer. I just think Chelsea are going to remain patient with Rice, given the fact he continues to reject contract offers. If West Ham don't have a good season, by this time next year, it's another year on his contract gone down. And West Ham, we see this with a lot of clubs, and you get into a position where are you just going to keep maybe losing the big fee that you can get? If they would have sold him this summer, could have got a ludicrous fee for him that he probably isn't worth. Maybe it's going to be closer next summer to a deal that Chelsea and Marina are happy with, and that could be a deal that will happen, I think, eventually, I hope, because I can see that being a little bit more of a slow burn. But I do feel that Chelsea need to make a midfield signing this summer over a centre-back signing. That's another piece I did with Football London, sort of a collaborative piece. We've spoken a lot about Jules Koundé. I've always sort of stated I don't think Koundé would be a bad signing. I understand the logic behind it, not only in terms of the individual player and his talent and what he could potentially become, the fact that this is a guy who, one of the best centre-backs in the league, one of the best young centre-backs in Europe currently. And also, I just think he's tailor-made. You can see within his game, he's tailor-made to, I think, suit Thomas Tuchel's system in terms of Chelsea playing up from the back, having a more daring option maybe, especially Koundé's runs from deep, I think are really interesting. But I don't feel like, especially with now Chalobah breaking into the first team, at least for the first few games of the season, I don't feel it's an essential signing personally, at least for about 60 million. I personally think that sort of fee should be going somewhere that I think is more critical, which I think is the central midfield situation. Kante's fitness issues are a massive concern, and especially a week into the season, even if it doesn't turn out to be that bad, he's back in training now. this is something that is concerning to me. And also, I just think we lack a profile of a midfielder, more of a holding midfielder. I think, Kante, obviously, a lot of people call him a holding midfielder, but we all know there is much more to N'Golo's game than being a holding, sitting midfielder. I think you need someone who's going to be a bit more destructive, can maybe sit behind an N'Golo Kante at times and let him venture forward and does what he does best, which is be one of the best midfielders in world football. And I just feel like TCHOUAMENI is a player to me that I've gone in a lot of depth on the channel before, and I wrote a lot about him in my massive central midfield piece for Football London that I will link below. And I just think for me, it's a smart signing for Chelsea. He is a younger player. I think he's a player that doesn't instantly walk into the first team, but he is one to me that I think Chelsea, if they don't act soon, will be snapped up by one of our rivals or someone across Europe. I think will snap him up and take him to the next level. And then maybe it could be sort of like that middle tier club, or at least a club before he goes to a super club, which maybe you class Chelsea as, where Chelsea would have to pay double what they could right now for him. And that's something that is maybe a little bit of a concern to me. I think TCHOUAMENI would be a really shrewd addition to the squad this season and could maybe offer something that we just don't have at the moment, and I think would give us enough options, strong options over the season, which has been rumoured basically since the Champions League final that Tuchel was looking at DM, and I think TCHOUAMENI would be a good option. Let me know your opinions about TCHOUAMENI in the comments below. But let's move on to Rom, obviously doing his press conference yesterday. Some really good quotes that I do want to pick out here. It was just great to see him back at the bridge. The videos they've released of him walking around Cobham and also around Stamford Bridge, I think have been really well sort of managed. I think everything a fan would have wanted to see from Lukaku returning back to the bridge, and some of the quotes have been absolutely blockbuster basically. And I just want to go through some that I've picked out here that I think are really interesting about how he's developed as a player since he was last at Chelsea back in 2014 when he permanently left for Everton. He said, "I was young and I don't think I was evolved as I am now. My journey has had a lot of ups and downs, but if you keep performing, you will always get a chance. My relationship with the club has always been great, and to be back is a good feeling. The experiences were very beneficial. The basics I learned about work ethic and what it takes to win, I took those for the rest of my career. I went to another country and I won there, and this club, Chelsea, kept being progressive, made sure they were winning trophies. For me, it was the right thing, the right move." There have been other quotes about how he's evolved as a player, going back to Stamford Bridge, being very happy, retelling the stories of his first days at Chelsea back in 2011, meeting, of course, his hero, Didier Drogba. Incredible stuff, lovely stuff to see. But as well, he's just, an elite forward, isn't he? He is the, I think personally for me, the dream transfer. And I'm really excited to see what he can do on Sunday. Is he just going to start the game? I think that's a big thing. I mean, he says he's ready to go. Not that surprising. He trained with Inter Milan before he moved over to London. So in terms of him returning late and not having much in match fitness, I'm not quite sure on that side of it. But I think if he's ready to go, I wouldn't be too stunned if by the time we get that lineup on Sunday before the game at the Emirates, Lukaku's name is on the team sheet, because he is the record-breaking signing. This is the guy we want to see play for Chelsea, and he's already missed one Premier League game. He missed the Super Cup as well. So we want to get him out on that pitch very, very soon for what is a massive game. So I'm excited to see what he can do against Arsenal and for the rest of the season. Chelsea got some big games coming up soon, so great to hear these quotes. How many goals do you think Lukaku will score for Chelsea in the Premier League this season? Let me know in the comments below. And quickly, Hakim Ziyech back in training. I expected maybe like next week. I think Tuchel said when he originally got that injury, he sort of said 2 weeks. So maybe he's a little bit ahead of schedule to be back on the training pitch today at Cobham. Just great to see him back out there, because individually for Ziyech, I think it's so important he establishes himself more as a first team player this year. It's going to be difficult, and I think that Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic sort of all fall into a category of player for me who I think need to make this season sort of theirs. I think they need to find themselves in the first team. It's going to be difficult because, as ever, if Tuchel pretty much sticks with the same formation, then you're looking at Mount, Havertz and Werner, and especially now, of course, Lukaku absolutely taking up one of those spots. To me, Lukaku and Mount, they're like two of those players for me. So it's difficult. It really is difficult. But I think that Ziyech did himself so much good over pre-season in terms of the way he looked. I think he looks so physically fit. Seeing him live against Spurs, I think he was so good that night. The 2 goals, but also just his work rate, his pressing. Such a shame for him to get injured. He has missed 1 game. I suspect he'll miss Sunday as well. but the fact that he can be back so soon, I think, is a real positive for him personally. And if he can get back on the pitch, if Tuchel can give him those minutes, if he can find a role where he becomes a real big creator for Chelsea, if he continues in that sort of form, in particular scoring goals for Chelsea, which he's had a knack for over pre-season, that's going to make him a key player, I think, a player that Tuchel will rely on a lot. And Chelsea have a lot of games, as we know, so there's going to be opportunities here. I think it's just about who is going to take those opportunities, especially behind what we consider the first choice sort of front three. But I don't think it's going to be a set in stone. I think Tuchel has so many options from the start, off the bench, in terms of what kind of game plan he's going for. So it's great to see Ziyech back. I know a lot of you guys who watch the channel are big Hakim Ziyech fans, and I understand why, because over pre-season you see that talent, the way he's a very unique player in the positions he takes up. He's not a modern day winger. You know, he is, for me, I kind of reference him to Cesc Fabregas, and I know that may seem a little bit weird because he's not a central midfielder. But just in the way that I think if you're going to get the best out of Ziyech, I think you have to let him run the game. I think you have to make him a key part of the way you create opportunities. And I just think with the way he's able to thread passes through to the likes of Werner, very exciting. So if he can get on the pitch, continue in the same vein, hopefully that shoulder injury hasn't taken him back too much, I think he could have a very good season for Chelsea. Let me know your opinions about Ziyech in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell, and I will see you again